Hello, this is Uncle David, back again from the front lines and anxious to share some of God's faithfulness and blessings throughout the last several weeks. It's been a little over a month since we made an extreme faith report, and so after many friends asking me to please do one, we took the time off to do it today because just in a couple of days we're leaving back to South America again. Last month was an extremely heavy flight schedule. Flew over 100 hours in the last month, and that's 1,200 hours a year average. That's a tremendous amount of flying. But God has been faithful and blessed and protected, and we want to share some of those blessings with you. We want to share also and encourage you to be able to trust God more. Let's start with Brazil. We came up from Bolivia. We went to Brazil. There we found our team really working hard. It was exciting to see what they were doing. Brazil is basically most of the South American continent. Specifically, we have our air base. I want to talk about the air base. We have media work in different parts of the country, scattered around different parts of the country, but especially in the area of medical aviation, medical launch, river launch work, and community service. We stopped by Manaus, which is right in the heart of the Amazon basin. You can see from the picture that it's filled with water. Everywhere you turn is water, 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 and people living, thousands of families living along those little inlets and rivers that need to hear about Jesus and need to receive medical care, and there are many people dying for lack of that medical care. The government is doing its best to put in medical launches in some of its main tributaries, but still in an emergency, they can be, if they're 30, 40 miles away, it can be a life or death experience. Some years ago, actually after many, many years of working, I was called from Brazil in the early 80s to come and be a missionary pilot, mechanic, and nurse there in Manaus for the union there. And the General Conference called me and asked me to come work there, but they also asked me to come work in Mexico and Peru at the same time. I was a little confused with 3 invitations. I said, well, you choose one. But they said, no, you need to pray about it and God will help you to choose. And that's when we felt led to go to Mexico instead. So another Mexican friend of mine went down to work in Brazil in my place. Eventually he returned back and flew for many years in Mexico. But after some years, the program was closed. I do know many of you have heard of the light bearers to the Amazon, the work of Elder Leo Hallowell and his wife. Well, I was working as Union Departmental and Communication in ADRA for the Venezuelan Union, so I made several trips down to Manaus to work with the different conferences and try to help open the program again. After many years, the program was reopened. As far as the boats are concerned, as far as the medical launches, mainly transport launches, not medical launches so much, but it is functioning today again. Thank the Lord for all the hard work and investment of many people. But the aviation program is still, up to this date, has been closed, and we've been working for years to make it happen, and I have an exciting report of what's happening and what God is going to do with it. I'm going to end with that at the end of my report. The Lord helped us to find a property. It was run by a Swiss gentleman with his Brazilian wife, and they had bought this property and built it up nicely to make it like a tourist attraction. God helped us to purchase it. We still have a small balance, very small balance left to pay, which we expect to do this next few weeks, Lord willing. But the 90%, 95% of it has been paid already, and we are anxious we've been using it already for a year and a half. We moved on almost 2 years, and we have several team members, several families that have moved into the area there. We are grateful for all those that have worked there. At least 4 or 5 families have spent time there. It's called Base dos Anjos. The Base dos Anjos means the air base, the angels' air base, where the angels dwell. And our airplanes, of course, will be called Angel 1, Angel 2, Angel 3, and so on. And so we were glad to be able to buy this place. The Lord has really provided it. It's a gorgeous place. You can see every day looking out at sundown in the morning. The morning sun illuminates everything, and in your sundown you have the sun shining across there. And our little medical launch is normally parked there, and then we're going to park our airplanes and have a floating hangar and also a permanent hangar there. This is what you see when you look out over there, and you'll be seeing the airplane land on the water there with its floats, and then tie up to the dock and park for the night, waiting for the next emergency. The day that we arrived there, just a few weeks ago, there was a couple of military waiting for us there. The one on the left, you can see that the captain there with the sergeant, they wanted to have a function. They work in communities. This is the Adventist Military Association. And he told me we have a lot of us that are in the military, that the different branches that are Adventists. A smaller number are actually active, working to help the church, and the very small number is extremely active. And he said, I belong to the extremely active group, the small group. And I wanted to meet you. I wanted to see if we could help in any way, and if we could work. So we invited them to come with us to the air base, and they came, they inspected it, found it very appropriate, and the next Sabbath, even though I wasn't there, I had to leave, they came with a large group of military and had a program there teaching the children and the neighbors different things on the Bible and on health and so on. It was very nice, all coordinated by Adventist military personnel living there in Manaus. Then we also had a group of medical professionals, dentists, physicians, dental hygienists, and different specialists, lab people, and so on. Here it says, Jesus is the physician of all physicians, and we are part of his team. Isn't that a beautiful way to say it? And we are part of his team. So this group of people came, and they not only helped us on Sabbath, but on Sunday we had a village, a special medical outreach at the local town nearby up the river. And these are some of the children, and you can see they're active with the children's ministry, helping them to paint pictures and to understand the Bible. So on Sunday, all day long, the team worked very hard. The dentists and the physicians and the lab work, seeing patients and so on. It was a very nice thing to work together like that, and they're looking forward to having the airplane soon. Some of the ladies that were not on the medical team but participated were those who could help to cut hair and help the children for cleanliness and hygiene and so on. It was very, very encouraging to see the teamwork. There's our little medical launch. Not very big, but it can carry people up about 12 to 13 people, and carry them up and down and transport them to do river work there. After we left Guyana, we knew that program was coming. We went up to Guyana, and one of the things that my wife had promised to do was to work with a vacation Bible school in a little village called Monkey Mountain. Now, Guyana is located on the north coast of South America, just north of Brazil. You can see it there. The capital is Georgetown. We started working there 23 years ago. It's English-speaking, the only English-speaking country in South America, and nestled between Venezuela and Suriname, north of Brazil. And there's a village down southwest a little bit, called Monkey Mountain. Now, we've had Bible workers working there for years. The conference has also had people working there, but we haven't been able to build a church there yet. So this effort was specifically targeting the children and offering them classes for a week, vacation Bible school. So it was very interesting, and so I flew them down to Monkey Mountain, and there we can see I made 2 trips, and I took the first team in with supplies. I brought the second team in the next day, and then I had to go on to do some other project. I left my wife there. Aunt Becky's right there in the middle, you can see. And up front is one pastor, and the next, I also brought another pastor there. He's a little back in the back. And so Monkey Mountain's a little village nestled down in the valley, next to a mountain where it was full of trees. Monkeys used to run back and forth, and that's why they call it Monkey Mountain. But you can see it's a cute little village of simple little houses, but it also has beautiful nature there. Look at these beautiful waterfalls. These virgin waterfalls, it's wonderful to swim in, and and have lovely people there. Look at this large batch of children there. So this pastor with my wife and Becky, and there was Sandra, Sister Sandra. They all worked together with the children, and the parents also got really involved and were very happy to come. Look at that large crowd there in one little small village. Think of all the thousands of villages that are waiting for you to go. God has a lot of people there, and He's waiting for somebody to come in and teach them about Jesus. So there's Aunt Becky and Sister Sandra teaching the children the Bible treasures and teaching them how to draw. The days of creation, the focus was the 7 days of creation, what God did on each day, and how the seventh day He rested from the work that He had done and sanctified the seventh day, and how the 7-day week is still active today, and the seventh day as well. And that the other ladies had cooking classes. They made all kinds of food. It was very, very good food. We brought in all the food supplies in the airplane, so they had supply. They had all the necessary ingredients, and the ladies loved it as well. It was very well received. At the very end, there was a nice baptism, and there's Elder Winston James. He is a retired treasurer for the conference. He and I still belong to the board. He's a co-founder of Guyana Adventist Medical Aviation Service with myself, and the current union treasurer of the Caribbean Union. He also is one of our co-founders, and we work together closely in the Guyana conference. And so he went in and he baptized these 5 candidates. There was a young girl who wanted to get baptized as well, but her parents had said no. So on Sunday, when it was all over, they went to visit that family. And wouldn't you know, the Lord had worked on their hearts. They were all praying. And that very Sunday, like what Philip did with the eunuch, the mother said, well, why don't you baptize our daughter today? Let's not wait till next time. So on Sunday, even on Sabbath, she wasn't baptized on Sunday. They went right down to the river and baptized the other young lady. So there's now 6 new members there. But most exciting of all, there's a village captain in the village, the chief in the village. I didn't know he was a chief when I met him originally last year, but I went into Monkey Mountain to drop off some supplies, and I was talking about our other pilot in Guyana called Lincoln, and he said, "Oh, my name is Lincoln," and my name is Lincoln too. And I said, "Oh, is your name Abraham Lincoln?" No, he said, "My name is Lincoln Abraham." So I laughed out loud. "Oh, your last name, your family name is Abraham?" "Yes, I'm Lincoln Abraham." I said, "Oh, very good, nice to meet you," but I did not know that he would be elected as the village captain. So when we came back this time, guess what? Lincoln Abraham is now the chief, and we've had a good relationship all these years, and then he really appreciated the work that was being done. So the village got together, and for the first time after so many years of work, they gave us a beautiful piece of property on the hill to build an Adventist church. So there is Elder Winston James with one of our Bible workers, and he is, they're breaking ground there where the new church is going to be. And so when I came in to get them the next week, I was able to bring in 16 bags of cement to start the footings for the church. So that was very heavy, 8 bags of cement is 800 pounds. And I loaded it up and took it in there into Monkey Mountain. So we were very grateful that God opened those doors, not only with 6 new members in the church for the first time, a baptism there, but also the fact that now the Seventh-day Adventist Church can build a little church. The plot of property has been there, all because of the investment of years and years investing and working in the village, and the result is the harvest that was done here. Then we went to Bethany. In Bethany, we've had a hangar for some years put up by volunteers, but we had a dirt floor. And so the time has finally come. One family from Trinidad and Tobago paid for half of it, and we used some general donations from Gospel Ministries International to pay for the other half. The workers came from the village, and some of them received stipends, some of them were just volunteers, and the work started. And the work was just completed this week as far as the hangar floor, and now they're building a taxiway so that we can get the airplane in. There you can see the work is almost finished. We tied it in with steel so that it would not crack, and we pray that it will be a great blessing to our aviation maintenance work there and the work being done. There's the airplane waiting for its new house to be finished so it can come back in. We have 5 airplanes in Guyana. Not all of them are flying. One of them has a new engine to install, which we're going to install this next week. I'm going to fly down and we're going to carry the engine in and put it in the village of Kaikan and fly it back out. And then we have another one that's being overhauled. It's in town, but the engine's up here in the U.S. I'll be taking that down shortly. And so we're grateful for a place now to work, a nice clean hangar to work. It's nice to have a maintenance base as well. Well, Adventist Medical Aviation, AMA, many times known as Adventist Medical Aviation, and in this case, Amazon Medical Aviation, and in Spanish, AMA means to love. So it's a nice acronym, and in Venezuela, it's called AMAE, which means Adventist Medical Aviation of the Indians, or Indigenous Adventist Medical Aviation. So it's a very nice name, signifying love. And we had a family that called me some months ago and said, we have an airplane we would like to donate to you. And this family here, Brother Clark and Sister Debbie from Arkansas, they donated, not the airplane you're seeing here, that's the one they fly. It's a little Kit Fox home-built airplane. They build their own airplanes, and he got this one partially finished and has finished it up, and they're flying it around right off to the farm. They have their own little short runway there. But I stopped by and slept at their house the other day to pick up the airplane. What they donated was an Avion. They donated this airplane to Gospel Ministries International. But believe it or not, this lovely looking airplane in good condition. It had a cylinder problem. We replaced the cylinder, rebuilt the prop, put some significant monies into it to get it flying, because I don't believe in airplanes sitting on the ground. We have to get them in the air. But believe it or not, this airplane, though it looks so nice, is relatively old, in the 40s. And none of my mechanics on the front lines or pilots really wanted to use an airplane that would be hard to find parts, for which they really didn't want to be responsible for the maintenance. So I talked to Brother Clark and Sister Debbie, and I said, would you be willing to trade this airplane for an airplane that Andrews University has? They have an airplane they can't use, and they would love to have this one, and they have an airplane that we would like to have. So they looked at the airplane, and they said, that's a very good deal. This will open a door for you. And I said, where's it going? I said, this airplane is going to go to Brazil, to the Amazon. It's going to be put on floats, and it's going to do a special work there. And they both looked at me and said, we are willing for our airplane to help Andrews University, and then that other airplane they have. So this plane has been taken care of very well, and so Andrews University also. This is just before I left on the airplane to fly to Andrews University. When I got to Andrews University there, Andrews had this aircraft. It's a home-built experimental aircraft. It's a special STOL, short takeoff and landing, for 4 persons. It's ideal to go on floats. It's a very, very nice airplane. On land, it can take off. It can land and take off within just approximately 100 feet. On pavement, a little less than 100. On grass, a little more than 100. But it's made to fly. And it's made to come in at very, very slow speeds and land in short spaces. Now we're going to put it on floats, so we have rivers to take off and land on. But it does carry 4 people. And it's ideally suited for that. And we talked to the Brazilian government, and we found out that as long as it doesn't do commercial work, and of course we never do commercial work with our airplanes, you can carry friends on there, anybody you want to carry, and it's a very a maintenance program can be designed that's very easily approved, especially if we have licensed mechanics. That makes it even better. And so this is the plane that we traded the Avion for. We were very happy for it. Currently it's here in Tennessee. I got here yesterday afternoon with the plane. I had to fly from Andrews University, flying to Tennessee. I had to fly right over my parents' farm, and they have a little runway. So I stopped for the night. It was already evening. I stopped there, and there's my parents. My dad is a retired missionary pilot. He's flown for years in Bolivia. He's the founder of the aviation program in Bolivia. And then he flew for years also in Peru as a pastor, as a pilot, and as a registered nurse. My mother's a retired nurse, having taken care of thousands of patients also in Bolivia and in Peru. And it was a special privilege to honor my parents with spending the night there and letting them see the airplane. My dad's office is peppered with pictures of different missionary airplanes that we have around the world, in Africa and in Asia, and even had two in Europe for a while, but for training, one for training and one for missionary work. But South America, all these planes. So they were delighted to see the work that's going to go forward. So this plane very soon will be in the jungles of Brazil. Then they asked me, what about the floats? The floats you can buy already as a kit, already pre-drilled, all the pieces in place. You just ship it out and down. It's flat aluminum, take it down there, and then you rivet it together and seal it and mount it onto that. They're made specifically for that airplane. So we are going to be taking these floats down and putting them on the airplane and putting them together once the plane lands in Brazil. When it's finished, it's going to look similar to this airplane. This is a different airplane, but it gives you an idea of what it's going to look like when it's finished. And you can see it's a cute little airplane. In fact, if we like it a lot and it works well for us, we'll get more of them. It's a Zenair CH-801 from Zenith Aircraft, and it's specifically designed for these short runways. In this case, we don't have short runways, but we will be able to climb out in short spaces. Excuse me. And it's always, I tell you a lot of good things. Whenever I share these reports, I like to tell you what is happening and encouragement. But that doesn't mean we don't go through difficult times. I don't talk about difficult times too much because I'm an optimistic person and I like to look on the positive things. And more than anything else, what I see is what God is doing and blessing. Many times we shed tears. Many times we have difficult times. We go through difficult financial times. Sometimes we wrestle with difficult personnel needs. We need many missionaries still. We're growing, and we need missionary pilots and mechanics, agriculture, technical people, and we need doctors and dentists, physicians and dentists. We need media people, cooks, teachers, just about any kind of profession. And many of these places we pray and we pray and we pray. For example, in the village of Kaikan in Guyana, one of our pastor from Papua New Guinea, when he went home, we were sorry to see him leave, but he left a hole and another missionary stepped in and filled it, and then he fell off of a mountain just a few months later and he was killed. And we haven't had anybody in the village of Kaikan to run the Bible school there. And we just heard today that somebody broke in and stole our generators, our equipment, our tools, and it's kind of discouraging just because of the lack of missionaries. We don't have proper supervision in these places, and then criminals come in and steal, and it's all because we don't have missionaries. But that's the cost of doing business when you have to do it. It's like the pineapple stories. You just turn it over to God and say, Lord, you'll have to replace our tools. You'll need to replace our generator. You'll need to replace all those expensive things that people have sacrificed for. But we had everything locked up, but people break in. They were breaking and steal. That's why we put our treasure in heaven where thieves don't break in and steal. But because of lack of missionaries and sometimes funding and sometimes other reasons, we do shed tears and we do have difficult times, but we don't talk about it too much because we take it to the Lord in prayer and we leave it in the throne room. One of the sad things today at 9 o'clock, I was told that half an hour before, one of our missionaries in Bolivia had died. Jenny was one of our founders, a young lady that helped us start the television network there in Bolivia. She's the one that called me and told me that they had found a television network for sale. You remember the story. It was $1.5 million. We didn't have it, but she said, you said God will provide. So we went down and we started negotiating, and we signed the papers, and it took 18 months, but God paid the $1.5 million on the last day. That's a very thrilling story of God's provision. But Jenny lived a very, very careful, healthful life, very careful, did everything that she could correctly, and she had breast cancer, and here she was in intensive care, unconscious. She was intubated, and when I got to Bolivia, I went to see her. They had just taken the tube out, and she was conscious and seemed to be pretty bright. We were all very happy that she was recovering. And then we found out she went to another hospital, like a step down, and she was going to go home. And my wife and I went to visit her, and then she went home, but she passed away this morning. So Jenny is now resting. She has fought the battle, and now it's our turn to finish the race and to someday receive the crown of life. I believe she will. I have to admit, she was one of the most stubborn ladies I have met in my life. Getting her to change her mind was like putting a nail through cement. It was very, very hard. She would go pray about it, and the only thing that would change her mind is if she, praying about it, God told her to do something. You couldn't get her to reason and other things, yet she worked for the Lord, and she loved the Lord, and she wouldn't give up no matter what challenges she had. That's one of the advantages of being stubborn, I guess, and that is that you don't give up very easily. And she just wouldn't give up either. And so even though we have difficult traits, sometimes God is so merciful, He uses those traits to advance His work. So we say goodbye to Jenny. We're sad to have lost her, but we'll see her very soon in resurrection morning. The question is, are you ready? Are you ready for that morning? Are you ready to go to sleep at any time if necessary? Would you give your life? Would you be faithful unto death? Would you give up everything you had? Would you do it now? If God called you to walk away from everything? Or would you lay it all on the altar if He asked you to? We are told that if we ask Him, He will tell us when and how to sell our things. But if we don't ask Him, He will not tell us, and we will be allowed to keep our things, which is the case of most of our church members. They're not asking God, how do I get rid of these things? They're praying that they can be blessed and accumulate more. But it is time to be praying this prayer. Lord, these are all your things. They don't belong to me. I'm just a manager. I'm just a steward. Show me how to, at the right time, to sell and place these things on the altar so that I won't lose them. Because Sister White says that we will be allowed to keep them until someday when it's too late to sell, they will come down like a mountain to crush us. So for those of us that have already placed everything on the altar, I got to tell you, it's a wonderful, liberating feeling to know that you own nothing, you can lose nothing. Everything has been placed already on the altar and has gone forward and it's already been consumed in the mission work. And if we get to heaven, we're going to hear the words, well done, thou good and faithful servant. That's what I want to hear someday, and I want to be faithful until the end. I don't want to lose my crown at this late stage after having run the race for so long. And so I encourage you, are there tears? Yes. Are there losses along the way? Yes. Is there human error that sometimes causes us to face losses or to lose time? Yes. But we are told, do not worry. The Master has everything in His hands. And if you will just come to Him and follow His orders, He will take care of things. And we have found this to be true. We have found that even when you don't have resources or when you have very little, just manage wisely what you have and ask God to bless the little that He's given you. Or if you have a lot, it's a big responsibility to have a lot. Ask God where He wants you to place them. And please don't delay, because the doors are still open to do God's work. In many of the countries that were open before, like in Russia, it's much more difficult to work than it was. Bolivia had passed some laws last year, and they almost closed the door on all evangelism. But the law was repealed, and we still are able to work in Bolivia. Someday, even in our country, here in the U.S., it will be difficult to work, much more difficult than today. So whatever you can do today to advance God's work, go ask God. Ask Him what He wants you to do, and put all your resources online, and you will see great joy will come into your heart, and God will use you as a steward for divine resources. And as you place everything on the line, God will give you more to work with. So may God bless you, and I hope you've been encouraged by this report. Sunday, just a few days from now, we're heading down to the Dominican Republic. then on to Grenada, then on to Guyana. I may have a medical evacuation to run to Mexico. One of our donors down there is also wrestling with cancer, and he was wanting to see if we could fly him to Mexico. I'm willing. It's a little bit out of my schedule, but he's been so kind and that family sacrificed so much that if that's what he wants, I'll be happy to do it. But I hope that maybe we can find some treatment for him a little closer to home. And I'm praying for our dear brother Higgins there, and maybe you can pray for him too, that God will give him strength and healing. And then it'll be time to come back again, and my wife, Aunt Becky, will be here with the Pathfinder Camp Paris up in Oshkosh. She's taking some of the Pathfinders up, and then I'll come pick her up, load up the airplane, and we'll head south once again to the Caribbean, to Guyana, to Brazil, to Bolivia. And we're praying for the work in Argentina, the work in Peru, and many developments that are happening. May God bless you. I hope you're encouraged, and I hope that these Extreme Faith Reports have been a blessing and encouragement to you in your ministry, in your life. God bless you.